to talk to you about my accidental discovery of how I discovered this kind of freelance world and what I'm doing today. I've spent over 20 years of my career empowering people in rural areas to really think about diversity and change in a different way and broaden their kind of perspective. I've built programs, I've done consulting, but it was my personal trials and my personal stories that kind of led me here. And what I'm about to talk to you about today. I was born biologically female, and I'm a transgender man, and I've been on hormones and transitioned 14 years ago, and now for all intents and purposes, I look like a white guy, country bumpkin. I live in Arizona, but my past and my history of advocating in the LGBT community, I went through a lot of things and a lot of trials and really difficult times, and my story became something really powerful that I would share with others, and it led me to kind of this niche where I became a resource guy and connecting people to resources and helping organizations connect people to resources that were underrepresented. My dream my whole career was to create a one-stop shop online, where we put all the resources in one place so it's easier to find. Others thought I was crazy. People in my field were like, just go get a job. What are you doing? I was from a rural area. I was different. It was expected that I go and work and get a job and take my college degrees and work for an employer. But it was never enough because I wanted to have such a greater impact. And so I can think back as long as I can, remember that I've been doing like side work or side gigs or whatever. And so freelancing was never a new thing to me. So when others thought I was crazy, I just kept climbing the ladder. And today, now I live my bliss by connecting people to the freedom and flexibility of what it means to be an entrepreneur. I run my own consulting firm called Linking Dreams Global, and I work with the Center for the Transformation of Work to make the world more inclusive of all types of freelancers, from all the different backgrounds and not just one type. So happy to be here. It was an accidental discovery for sure. I never thought and imagined I'd be in the freelance world because I was always in advocacy, but I found that I really love this sector. I really found it fascinating over the last few years. Like I always did, side hustles and gig work and freelancing.com and whatever I could do to make extra side money to pay for college or, to buffer my pay my bills. But it was interesting to see as the pandemic happened that we saw this freelance revolution. People were leaving their jobs in search of a new way of working because they had families or they were laid off or they could no longer go to the office. And I think in a lot of ways, panic of that pandemic piece set in of like, I don't want to go back to my everyday job where I have to report to a bad boss and not get paid enough. I want to be able to climb a ladder and really explore different types of ways of working. And people said, I need extra money. And during isolation, they said, well, maybe I don't want to go back to my routine job. Maybe I want to pivot and do something new. And so it really exploded this freelancing revolution. But then, on the flip side, there are others like me that have been freelancing for as long as we can remember. But we're the invisible identities. We see in the numbers, we see a lot more LGBT people represented in the freelance community, at least 10%, because we know what it's like to be discriminated in jobs and be overlooked for promotions and things like that. So we left a long time ago looking for a new way of working. Other people that are underrepresented might be people that suffered with disabilities, people that have families. And now in rural areas, we're seeing a lot more people. I get at least 3 requests to meet a week of people saying, how do I make a break into this world? Because I want to be able to scale myself. And it seems to be that those people also have things that are diverse about them. And so it really brings into perspective that there's a new way of really looking at diversity as a whole, and that it doesn't, when in the mainstream, we look at diversity as being about race and about gender as it means male and female. And it doesn't ever seem that the conversation gets beneath that to dig deep to say, what about other people that don't fit in maybe a racial difference category, or maybe we're not LGBT, but we suffer all kinds of other challenges, that lead us to this world. There's more than 30 million entrepreneurs across the United States. And like I said earlier, LGBT represent 10% of that. But as I kind of branch out and meet more people and connect with people all over the world, I find that there's all different kinds of categories of difference of women entrepreneurs, older adults that are looking for a new way of working. And the problem is that the freelance world isn't created for everyone. So what we're finding in the research is that when it comes to people are really driving and jumping into this world, but when it comes to income, there's a big gap. It's either feast or famine. There's those people that are making hundreds of dollars per hour, and they're able to not only make a living, but they're able to pay for all of their needs and build a business and a company. But for most, they're just trying to what's called bootstrapping yourself, to trying to make it from paycheck to paycheck, from gig to gig, from project to project, and trying to figure out how to navigate this world and be your own boss and manage our time and what program do we use. And I still help people in this area navigate Zoom, stuff that we might take for granted because we use it every day as a freelancer to communicate with people. There are some that want to break into this world that don't have not had access before, and this is the first time. So for many, it's out there, and they're really what we call humping it and trying to really make a living, and it can be really difficult. The main points I want to make today really are about four key points. Um, Through the pandemic, I was laid off from my W-2 job, and so it spiraled me into this freelancing world full time. And even though I had an Ivy League master's degree and I had lots of college experience and 20 years in the DEI field and all of these things, what people saw with new algorithms and the new drive for DEI and improving diversity was that I'm white and I'm male and I have an Ivy League education that made me look like I was like everyone else, that we wanted to reduce and improve diversity. So it didn't matter that I was from the LGBT community, it was what I looked like on my application. So I applied for over 250 different leadership diversity roles over the period of about 6 months. And in every single case, they would look at my profile and never reach out to me. And I found that really interesting because here I was, an advocate that said, we got to implement inclusive policies and inclusive practices. And, there's all this, growth in the DEI world to say, okay, we're going to mandate inclusion. But what we saw as a result was this kind of a reversal of the pendulum swung too far to the other side, where now we see an overrepresentation of older adults over the age of 40, specifically men that are being displaced and can't find work. So where we're making things more inclusive for younger adults that are freelancing in this world, we're not doing the same thing for others that really need to break into this world as well. So it's important to not judge a book by its cover, because image isn't everything. It's about looking at people's background and their experience, and in this world, it should be more about that and what we can offer. Another aspect is, I'm rural. I can remember sitting on the side of the freeway and trying to draw internet, during the pandemic, because I didn't have internet. And everybody thought I was crazy, again, saying, "What are you doing? Like, what are you doing sitting on the side of the freeway?" And I got stopped by law enforcement on multiple occasions, asking me what I was doing. And I'm like, "I'm just trying to get internet," and that was something just kind of unheard of. And now internet's in every household in our area. It may not be fast, but now people are curious to say, how can I, you know, go beyond the low wages? I mean, our average salary here is $32,000 a year for, in this area, but it's one of the most expensive places in the country to live. And so people are saying, well, I can't afford to live here, I got to figure out another way. And so they're trying to make a break into this world. And so underrepresented can also be those white faces, maybe traditional conservative, maybe people that the diversity standards say, hey, you're the ones we're trying to reach, you're the ones we're trying to preach to say, hey, you need to be more inclusive. And in the world of freelancing is not going to accept discrimination, but they're scared by what they see in the media. They're scared of the technology, and so Rule are not only pushing back and saying no to technology, but they also need a leg up to embrace it because it's leaving them behind. And so I think it's really important to put Rule in the category of underrepresented and diverse because they have a unique set of needs, regardless of what their race is. It's more about their economic position and their geography. The third point is that new innovation is driving the availability of opportunities, but people need catching up. So what we're seeing is that, the upskilling opportunities is there's 1,001 certifications out there. People are not going back to the traditional university to get a bachelor's degree or a master's degree. They're getting quick certifications so that they can skill into certain areas and do certain tasks. And so now the challenge is that we need more platforms out there to develop this kind of extra prong or extra tab on their website that they don't have to offer all those upskilling opportunities and certifications to help people get those jobs, but they need to be able to provide links and relationships and build relationships with those third party organizations that are doing that work. Lead those people to be able to find the upskilling opportunities that allow them to reclass, reskill, build on their skills, and make more money. That will keep them in the field of freelancing. I was just talking to somebody yesterday that said, I have a professional background, I have 2 kids, I can't go and work a traditional job because I'm a full-time mom. And they're waiting for their house to be built in a whole nother city. So for 5 months, she needs to spend time online and enter this world, but she's lacking some of those skills. So, but she can learn quickly. So if there was a way to enable her to go on a platform, be able to sign up and say, okay, these are the skills that I need. There's the language barrier, not just in the way we speak, but how we define freelancing and how we define skills. We need to basically automate that and start to connect some of the dots to pair certain language together so that people can easily identify what things they need to be able to upskill. And then the last point, we need to change the way we view difference. We got to stop looking at difference as the primary identity of saying, oh, okay, this person is Black or this person is disabled, and we need to do something special for them. As a transgender person, I always resented the fact that our LGBT community fought so hard for inclusive policies that made it about bathrooms. It's not about what bathroom I use. It's about whether I can keep a job. It's about whether or not somebody can discriminate against me just because of my background or who I am. Those are the more important things that we need to be addressing. But when we're making such a big deal about things that are just costing us money, to make this change, rather than telling our stories, rather than making relationships and having people view difference in a better light, to say, okay, I can see and empathize that this person is also a human being and that they have struggles. And what do we have in common? We need to start building on our commonalities and building relationships with one another. Because I'll tell you what helped me as a freelancer was not how fast I could do the job or how much I could get paid or how good I was at multitasking. It was having conversation after conversation and going to networking meetings and finding a mastermind group to really bounce ideas off of people that also got it and were also struggling, and then networking and meeting people that ended up being our potential clients. So I found that this world is a lot more social than the one that I worked in the workplace. And so I think that just looking at it, we need to change the way we view difference, and that difference can look a lot of different ways, and blanket policies are dangerous. And yeah, I just thought that those points were important on this presentation. If you'd like to get a hold of me, I'm easily found on LinkedIn. I go by Link, but I put in my full name in LinkedIn, so you could find me. You can find me on my website at linkingdreams.global, and you can find me at thetransformationofwork.org. I host monthly conversations about the advocacy and the freelancing world and all the different topics of how do we get freelancers to be able to do this full time and pay for benefits and do all of that, and how do we help them connect to it?